In the far reaches of the Andromeda Belt, Station 9 served as a bustling trade hub for creatures of all kinds from across the galaxies. Inside, the Nebula Café was known for its cozy ambience and a warmth that stood in contrast to the sterile, metallic corridors of the station. Zoe Larson, a young human waitress, spent most of her nights there, serving travelers, merchants, and even the occasional intergalactic dignitary. One evening, a quiet figure entered the cafe, shrouded in dark robes and moving with a slow, solemn grace. Zoe noticed the alien immediately, a Quellon, known for their reclusive nature and sensitivity to emotional bonds. She'd never served a Quellon before, and she wasn't entirely sure what to expect. The figure shuffled to a table in the far corner, its large black eyes blinking slowly as it took in the surroundings. Zoe approached cautiously and waited as the Quellon struggled to speak, its voice a low, trembling whisper. "Jestera soup, if you have it," the alien murmured, its voice as fragile as glass. The cafe's cook did indeed have Jestera soup, a warm, nourishing dish popular among some non-human species. Zoe served it as quickly as she could, keeping her tone gentle and respectful. She could sense an aura of sorrow around the Quellon, the weight of its grief palpable even without words. When she finally placed the bill on the table, the Quellon froze, its eyes wide with distress. It searched through its robes and produced a small, faintly glowing stone, a Heartstone, if Zoe wasn't mistaken. "Please, I cannot pay in credits. Take this," the Quellon whispered, offering the stone with trembling hands. The Heartstone glowed softly, its light a dim but steady pulse. Zoe shook her head and gently closed the alien's hand around the stone. "Don't worry about it," she said, offering a kind smile. "This one's on the house." The Quellon blinked, visibly moved, as though Zoe's words had reached some unspoken place of loneliness inside. It gave her a shaky nod, eyes shimmering with something like gratitude, then slipped out of the cafe, robes rustling quietly behind it. 2 days later, as Zoe was cleaning up before the evening rush, a neatly dressed figure walked into the cafe. The being appeared human, but there was a subtle difference, perhaps a softness in its skin tone or a smoothness in its movements that didn't quite align with human norms. It wore a dark suit and carried a metal briefcase under one arm. "Are you Zoe Larson?" it asked, voice measured and formal. Zoe glanced up from the counter, caught off guard. "Yes. Can I help you?" The figure nodded. "My name is Kale. I represent the Orion Expanse Judiciary as a liaison. I'm here on behalf of a recent visitor of the Quellon species, who was here 2 nights ago." Zoe's heart gave a small, startled leap. "Oh, yes. I remember. I just covered the bill. It was no big deal." Kale's expression softened. "To you, perhaps, but to a Quellon in mourning, your kindness was life-changing. In their culture, acts of compassion during grief carry significant meaning. By helping her, you became a part of her mourning ritual, a witness to her pain and a guardian of her sorrow." Zoe blinked, stunned. She had thought of it as nothing more than a simple act of kindness. Kale set the metal briefcase on the counter and opened it, revealing an ornate chest adorned with alien carvings. He lifted the lid, and inside, nestled on dark cloth, was the very Heartstone the Quellon widow had tried to offer Zoe days before. "This Heartstone," Kale explained, "is a deeply personal artifact. The widow's bond with her mate was sealed into this stone, and by custom, she would have taken it to her own grave. But she has chosen to pass it to you as a gesture of respect and gratitude. It contains memories, emotions, and fragments of her love and sorrow." Zoe could feel a gentle warmth radiating from the Heartstone, almost like a heartbeat. She hesitated, touched, but overwhelmed. This is too much. I barely knew her." Kale nodded understandingly. "Sometimes, it's not the length of time that matters, but the depth of the moment shared. You provided comfort when she needed it most. In the Quellon culture, there is no greater gift than a shared sorrow." Zoe looked at the Heartstone, feeling a strange connection to it, as though it were reaching out to her, inviting her to share in the memories it held. She took a deep breath and, with a gentle hand, picked it up, cradling it in her palm. The faint glow seemed to brighten in response. "I'll keep it," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "Please thank her if you can. And tell her she's not alone." Kale gave a slow, respectful nod. "She will know, in whatever plane she resides." "Thank you, Zoe Larson, for accepting her final gift." With a slight bow, Kale closed the chest, took the empty briefcase, and left the cafe. Zoe watched him go, still holding the Heartstone, feeling its warmth pulse through her hand. She placed it on a high shelf behind the counter, where it cast a soft glow over the cafe, its presence filling the room with a subtle, comforting energy. From that day forward, Nebula Café felt different. Regulars and newcomers alike would sometimes pause, feeling a quiet calm settle over them, as though a memory were brushing gently against their hearts. Late at night, when the cafe was empty, Zoe would find herself gazing at the Heartstone, feeling the whisper of the widow's sorrow and gratitude. Somehow, in a universe as vast as the Andromeda Belt, a fleeting act of kindness had bridged two hearts from different worlds, binding them in a shared moment of compassion. And perhaps, across the stars, the widow rested peacefully, knowing her memories were safe in the hands of a stranger with a kind heart.